snowman, you're going to need lots of white strips of paper. And if you want to do your snowman a completely different color today, you can do that as well. It is your artistic choice. This is not what we're making, but it is a cute little snowman. Okay, here we go. This is what we're going to make today. We're going to make these really cute little snowmen that actually come with a hanger. So if you want to hang them on your tree for the holidays, you can, or hang them in your window. You can also adapt these to go onto paper if you would like and put them in a frame, however you see fit. So these are the supplies, and we're going to go over these. But what you're going to need is for just the body and the head, you're going to need 30 strips. Now, you can cut that down. You can cut both of those into half and do like 5 and 10, or you can increase it and do 20 and 40. So there's a lot of room in here. Just think of it like a recipe that you can double or subtract or whatever you need to do. You're going to need something to wrap that paper on because that's what quilling is. So you could use a skewer, like a barbecue skewer, a paintbrush, a pencil, a knitting needle, whatever you have to wrap paper around. And if you have a stylus from a quilling kit, that's even better. And then runny glue, Elmer's, or an Aleene's craft glue. That's my favorite right there. And then a dish or a plate to put that glue into, and then a very small paintbrush, and I shouldn't say very small, a small paintbrush to apply that glue. Maybe you don't have that, grab a toothpick. I have an idea for a toothpick to help us with the nose later, so you could use it for two different things. You don't need a pencil, you don't need a ruler today. And then, of course, if you want to glue it to your paper, you absolutely can. Now, there is an optional supply, which is a hot glue gun, and I'm going to show you how I use it. You don't have to use it for this. You can use just plain traditional glue, but I'm going to show you how I do it, just to kind of show you. Okay, so what are our objectives? We're going to learn these basic quilling techniques. We're going to learn some different little coils. These are the easiest ones of anything I have taught on Get Set Up. They just are a little bit more time consuming, but they are the easiest. We're doing pretty much the same coil for the whole thing. All right, and we're going to come back to my face. Hello, my friends. The first thing I'm going to do is send to you guys in the chat. Now, you have to, you might be able to see it if you're in the lounge, I'm not sure, but if you're in the classroom, you're going to get it. So the first one is just a picture of what we're doing. And then the second one are two like pictures of the instructions. Now, if you have booked this class, you will get all of this in the notes at the end of class. So if you're not in the classroom right now and you're like, I want that, you will get it, I promise. All right, let's go ahead and spotlight my hands, if you don't mind. Thank you, Has. So here these are. They're really cute. If I turn them to the side, you can see that they have some dimension to them that build them out on this. And then, like I said, the back is not so much, but it can hang with this little piece right here. And we'll talk about that as we go along. All right, I'm going to get this out of the way. And we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're talking about the head and the body, and they're done the exact same way. They're just different sizes. So I'm going to start with white. Now, I said we have to do 10 of these. 3, 4, I'll start with 5, 6. I'll start with this amount. It doesn't really matter. The first thing that I like to do is to take my stylus or knitting needle or whatever it is and kind of give these a little bit of a turn like I do with ribbon and scissors. It's just telling the stiff paper, which I use cardstock, that it's going to be rolled. And I think it just makes it a little bit easier. Yes, there are video demos to all of this as well. So if you are just here to join today, you can do this on your own. So we're just going to roll this first one into a tight circle coil. All right, that means we're just going to wrap it around whatever we have. I'm using a stylus, but if you don't have a stylus, you're going to do kind of the same thing, but you're just going to wrap it around whatever you've got. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So we're making this first. We're going to start with just a plain tight circle coil. When you get to the top, just give that top a little bit of a flip. I'm going to grab my paintbrush here. I will tell you something that I have learned quilling with white paper. I have baby wipes next to me at all times because my hands constantly are dirty. I'm always messing with stuff. And then I'm going to hold that down. So I keep baby wipes next to me so that I can just periodically clean my hands. It could be that I have a cat running around here too. Okay. And then all I'm going to do with this is kind of push it down just to kind of even that out. I just like to kind of go back and forth, up and down with this. And while those of you that have taken quilling before, keep going, just do that, and I'll be right back with you. Those of you who've never taken quilling before, this is so easy. I'm going to do this with the end of my paintbrush. I'm just going to lay this on here. I'm going to use my finger just to kind of push it down and then just roll it up, just like I did with the stylus. And yes, I quilled on a barbecue skewer for a long time before I ever bought a quilling stylus, which I'm so glad I finally did because it changed the way I quilled completely. Pop the top, put some glue on that edge, just like that, and then hold it. Now, I do have a basics quilling class out there that you can watch on replay. I know I'm teaching it again in January for those of you that are brand new to quilling, and even those of you that have done quilling and just want to come and brush up on a couple techniques, you could do that as well. And then again, I just push it down, up and down in the center. Just kind of smooths the paper out. Now, the next step is we're just going to build on this because we're going to make a giant circle just like this to make the bottom of our snowman or the top. It doesn't really matter. Oh, and I have a pink one here if you want to see what a pink snowman would look like. Why not? This is really fun. This would also be a really good one to do if you have grandkids or kids that are interested in this. This is a great one to teach them. Doesn't require as much detail. Okay, so you have a couple options here. We're going to add 9 to this to make the head. And what you can do is you could combine all of these into making one large long strip. And I did it when I was practicing this. I did do that for the bottom. So I connected 20 strips and it was really long. And I had to make sure my cat was in the other room because she would have just played with it, right? So I'm just going to connect these just with some little glue, just like that. So you could make one long strip. There is a difference in the way that the product looks or the art piece looks. Is when they're connected like this, there's a little bump there, right? And that's going to show on your work. So you have to decide speed or how it looks. And it may not bother you that it has a bump in it. It kind of just depends on what I'm making. So this one I made and it has a bump. I'm going to pull the scarf back so you can kind of see it. So there's like, and you may not be able to see it, I don't know, but there's like a little, I can just tell. And maybe I'm picky, but I want you to know about it. I can tell when there's a little bump right there. So what I like to do to get it nice and smooth, instead of connecting all of those, I like to do them one at a time. Now, what that allows me to do, and I'm going to show you right here, I find the seam and I line them up. So it feels like one, or it looks like one continuous page. So the two seams are lined up instead of one paper sitting on top of the other so that when I roll it, it doesn't have that bump. And so I'm very picky about it. I'm rolling, am I rolling that one? No. And all you do is keep rolling these. Notice it's off of my stylus and now I'm just using my fingers. If you do one long continuous one where you do this, you can leave it on your stylus. I think that's another reason it makes it faster. You're not having to stop and glue every time, but I like it like that. That is my personal preference. It's kind of up to you how you want to do it. And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It just means that's my preference. And then I'm just going to keep rolling this up. Now, periodically, you're going to see me flip this over and push it down a couple times. What that does is it helps the paper to kind of move out and settle into that new little circle. Not absolutely necessary. It's just something I like to do. And we're going to keep going. Are there any questions so far? Did I explain that about the bump okay? And some of you may be like, yeah, it's fine. Just move on. Now, what I'm going to do, yeah.
I was watching this woman quill at our art center.
Yeah.
And what she said, she wasn't using cardstock. She was using quilling strips.
Sure.
But she, even if she's using the whole strip, would tear the ends so that you had like a more organic end. And she said that's how she did it. So you never saw that there was a seam because
Oh, that's a good idea.
so that's just something that I thought I'd pass on. If the cardstock, you can't really tear that way, but if you're using something lighter weight, just you can cut it, but just tear the ends to make it so that they mesh together better.
Yeah, and it gives it more of that organic ending rather than harsh edge. That's a great idea. No, I've never done that before. Thank you, Connie, for sharing that. I love to hear that because artists, we all do it completely different, and that's great to know. I've actually never seen a quilling artist do that. So I'm gonna have to try that. I may have to try that here and just see. It may work still with cardstock, especially if I could pull the layers apart a little bit with it.
When I got quilling strips from Temu, the way they come, they're sort of attached at both ends, and I found that I had to cut the ends off just because there was some of that glue where the pieces stuck to each other.
Yeah, definitely. So, what they're talking about with the quilling paper, and I'm going to show you guys here in a second, what Vicky and Connie were both referencing is that you can buy quilling strips pre-cut. A lot of quilling artists, that's the only way they work, and they love it. What that does is it frees up a lot of time. I cut all of mine, but I use cardstock. And so that's a difference why. Let me see if I have my strips here. I do. So these are the strips that they are talking about. And you can see here, Vicky, mine are apart too. That's why there's a rubber band right here. And these strips come pre-cut, which is really nice. But for me, the way that I work, they're a little thin for me. But then what Connie was talking about is instead of leaving this end straight across, that the artist would tear it, maybe even at an angle. Did she tear it at an angle, or do you know, Connie? Did she just tear it up?
It looked to me like she was just tearing it, not at an angle.
So, but it is more organic because you don't have that hard edge right there. That's pretty cool. Good to know. See, you guys, I learned from you, and I love that. I love that. So we're just going to keep doing this. And depending on how you like to work, maybe you're going to just go ahead and do the bottom that's 20 and get it out of the way since it's the bigger one. I've talked about this with quilling a lot. Quilling for me is very meditative and very therapeutic, and I can lose myself in it completely. And hours have passed by, and I go, I didn't get up, which is not good, but I really get into it. It's very good for my brain. Okay, so I'm going to just keep doing this. So what I meant by bringing that whole thing up is by trying to rush it sometimes. It's just a good thing to slow down. Slow down in life just a little bit and enjoy the process for however long you give yourself that day. I'm incredibly lucky that I have a very artistic husband as well. So he and I can get into our zones, and it'll be 11 o'clock at night and we go, we didn't eat dinner. We better eat. So it's nice that way though. Or he'll make dinner. That's nice. That's the really nice one. Now you keep working, because what I'm going to have to do so that I can get through this entire snowman today is I'm going to have to move on to the next step sometimes while you're still working on yours. Now, what's great is with this snowman, I do recommend you build it all the pieces, and then put it together. So you have the ability today to say, okay, I'm going to just put this to the side and go to this next part so that you can follow along with me. But if you want and just keep building the body and just listen, that's fine too. So what I like about this snowman is puffing it out to kind of give it that idea that it's more dimensional than just two-dimensional, even though it still is. So what you're going to do is puff this out with your thumbs. And I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Now you can get a tool that looks like this. And those of you that like to make your own tools, start looking now and seeing if you can figure out how you could make one of these, because I love how you guys come up with ideas. I don't know, there may be something out there. But what this allows you to do is to put it on top, and then it'll push it out for you. And it's okay. I like it. It makes things a little bit faster, but you don't have to use one of those tools. So what you can do is just use your thumbs. Let me do it two ways. I'll do it this way first. So I'm just pushing my thumbs up like that. And then I can kind of come on top and kind of look at the shape and say, yeah, I like it like that. Okay, let me see if I can do it from the side. Might need to, so it's growing, and then I can come in and kind of push it down like that, which is really nice. I really like it like that because I can kind of manipulate it a little bit better. Now, why I wanted to talk to you about this specifically. You're going to want to glue the inside of this. And the reason why is because once you're done with this is very easy just to move, and you've smushed it, and it will be disappointing. And especially if you're gluing it to paper. If you decide you want to glue this to like a blue background and you've puffed that up, somebody will no doubt come by and want to touch it. I have found that people want to touch quilling stuff a lot. And as an artist, I'm like, please don't touch it, please. But they're just so, the fact that it's paper, they have this strong desire to touch stuff. And this will help with that, because once it has glued and it's dried, it's cured at least 24 hours. It's really difficult to smush that down. I mean, I could hit it and smush it down, but somebody can't just come by and, which I have had people do, believe it or not. So what you're going to do is just take this glue and you're going to put it all on the inside of this. Now, with everything we're making today, almost everything, that is what you're going to want to do, is put some glue in there and then let it set up. It's just going to make it a lot easier. And then also, if you need to store it to use again next year for whatever reason, that will also help it not to be crushed. Although you can always come back and put glue in it again. It's kind of defeating when someone does that to your work. Okay, so this is a mini version of the snowman. Like I said, cut it in half or make it bigger. I think sometimes we like to make miniatures, and then as we get better, we might want to make a gigantic one. Make a huge one. What's great about this is you don't need the circle coil thing to make this, so you can make gigantic coils and it would look fantastic. This would also look really good with magazine pages. If you took my class where we made the hair coils for the ladies that had the fun hairstyles, we did our self-portraits, this would be great to do with those. That technique as well, with the magazine straw things that we flattened out. So like I said, what I do is I work on this a little piece at a time. So we've done the head, we've done the body, pretend. We're going to move to the next one, which is the hat. The hat is also exactly like this. We're going to roll, and the hat is 10 strips, and that is so it fits on top of the head. All right. So what I am going to do is just add to this right here. Wait, no, that's not what I want to do. Thinking. Maybe I'll make this the head. I just want to be able to demonstrate this to you. So that's the head, and I'm going to continue this with the hat. Now, the hat can be whatever color you want or colors. So if you look at this, I did this one as red and green, and so I alternated my strips. I did red, then green, then red, then green. Pretty easy. You could do 3 colors, 5 colors, 10 colors. You just keep the same amount of strips. Now, if you're doubling the head size, you're going to double the hat size. Very easy. The only difference here is that the hat is going to come up more to a point. Now, when I was working on this head, right, I showed you how to kind of get it into a bulbous shape. You can do the same thing, but push it up so that we get a little bit more of a stocking cap. Okay, so we've come up to a cone a little bit more. And you can still round it, or you could push it way out and make it a really tall cone. Just be really careful not to push it out too far, or else everything you've done will have to be redone because it's hard to fit it back in there. But you can push that up as high as you want, or you can make it lower if you want. You can even just take it so you're just have a little bulb right in the middle. So what I encourage you to do, maybe you don't want your snowman to have a stocking cap. Maybe you want it to look more like a top hat, is play around with this and see how could I turn this into a top hat? And I can guarantee you, you will figure it out. And it just gives you lots of options. Any questions about that? There's really no tips on that. It's pretty easy. That is really pretty easy. Okay, I'm going to roll this one a little bit more. I'm going to add, trying to think, maybe I'm going to add some more to this. We have a little bit more time. And these can be general questions too about quilling. If you're brand new, just let me know.
Deanna.
Yes.
Hi. I'm a little confused as to what size strips I should normally buy because I see they come in different widths. So do you use the 3 centimeter or the 5 centimeter? Or how do you usually do it?
That's a great question. So, and I'm going to be really honest with you at first. I don't buy a lot of strips. Because I cut everything. So let me tell you the width of what I like to use. I recommend that you don't go anything smaller than 1/4 of an inch. And I think even 1/4 of an inch is pretty small. Let me get out my strips just a second, and then we'll compare them to what I use. Now, mine I think are closer. Well, mine are somewhere between 1/2 and where did I put those? There they are. Mine are somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4.
Okay.
And here's the other thing. I'm really bad about centimeters too. So let me do my best here with what I've got. I don't even know if this is centimeters on this ruler. I'm just horrible with anything. Let me see if I've got centimeters on here. Vicky's good at, Vicky, aren't you pretty good at figuring out centimeters to inches? She's busy.
No,
So
but
this
I
is
have
not
a really great ruler that does it for me.
Okay, see, I have to use rulers too. I can give you inches. So this looks like it is about And if you will give me a second, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to look it up on Amazon really quick and tell you guys. Let me help you. That's a good question that I probably should know already. So give me 1 second to look that up. I gotta stretch
Well,
over my,
1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters.
okay,
So if you've got, if you've got 10 inches, then it's about 25 centimeters.
okay. Are you doing that? You just know that?
Yeah,
I'm so impressed.
don't be.
Because my,
It's actually 2.54, but we're not gonna get silly here. So 2.5 inches is,
got it. Got it, got it,
Pardon?
got it. Yeah, math is not a skill that I was given in life at all. I mean, it's really quite sad. So what would 5 millimeters be?
that would be 2 inches.
Okay, that's how long it is.
Yeah,
How
oh,
about
no,
wait,
No,
5 centimeters. 5 centimeters is 2 inches. I'm sorry. You
okay, so
said
what is 5 millimeters?
would be a half an inch.
A half an inch?
Yeah.
So I would look at things that are maybe 5 millimeters.
okay, that's very helpful.
I'm looking at the 3 millimeter. And what is 3 millimeters then?
Oh, you're killing me.
I'm sorry. I can't do math at all. So it's like you're my personal AI assistant right now.
Well, you figure, okay, I said 2.5 centimeters is an inch. So it's a quarter of
Yes.
0.2. So 0.25.
Is 3 millimeters.
Yeah, close enough.
Okay, so that's closer to what I use. A half an inch is a little bit more than that. So I would say between 3 and 5 millimeters is ideal. Anything smaller than that is really hard to quill with. At least
Mhm.
that's what I have found. So I like the ones that are a little bit thicker and give me a little bit more. I just think they're a little bit easier to use. Now I will tell you this, I don't know if I've ever talked about this. There are different quilling tools. There are quilling tools that have a longer slot in them, so I can stick this entire sheet, this entire strip in there and it fits. I really like that. Now they have some that are also shorter. Let me see if I have a shorter one. Yep, right here. This is a shorter one, so it's not going to take up the whole strip. I personally like the longer ones because it just makes it a little bit easier. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's just bending it in the weirdest kind of way. It still works. I just think the longer ones work better. Now, usually if you buy a kit, where it comes with 3 of these, you'll get a wider one too, like this, where you can put a bunch of different papers in it. I like this because it gives you options, but this is for those shorter millimeters of paper for the thinner ones here. This one gives you longer ones. This one allows you to do 2 or 3 sheets at a time. And then this one has a little nub here on the end, which is perfect when you want to design something on paper, and you can draw with this, which puts an indent in your paper. So if you can find a kit that has all 3 of these, and I think that's what's on the notes section that I'm going to send you guys, that will really help. Okay, I have some more questions in here. Okay, yes. So how do you get the instructions to access my videos? Good question. At the end of class, give me a little bit. I'm going to send out notes to you guys. Sometimes I think it depends on where you've signed up through. Sometimes you will get them into your inbox in your email, but you can always go to the home page of Get Set Up. Make sure you sign in. Go to the far right side, which is where your profile is. Click on your profile, and then every class that you've ever booked will be listed, and that is the place where you can find the notes from that class. if you're ever confused or it doesn't make sense or you can't find them, go to the Get Set Up homepage, go to the help section and reach out to support. You can do that in a live chat. They'll send me a message and we will make sure we get those notes to you. Have I ever tried it on construction paper? I absolutely have. Not thrilled with it. Not 100% thrilled with it, but yes, I have. And I'm sure there's some people in here who've used construction paper as well. Is there anybody in here who's used construction paper?
I tried it and hated it.
Yep. So we kind of feel the same way about it, but you may love it. So I say if you've got the paper to try it. And I have quilled with everything. I've quilled with plastic, I've quilled with newspaper. I just try new things all the time, especially because you could find paper that has been tossed and going to the recycling bin. It's just an easy thing to do. Poster board is the same way. That is what, go ahead, Vicki.
Or last time we quilled, you were talking about using aluminum foil to sharpen a paper cutter. And I had done that a while ago because I'd done so much on my friend's. But for some reason, I kept the aluminum foil. And last night, I started trying to quill with the aluminum foil for centers of snowflakes because I thought it would give them some nice shininess.
Yes.
They don't hold their shape very well, but along with the white, I like the look. It came out looking interesting.
Well, and you already used those. You might as well turn them into something. No, they don't want to keep their shape, but you could make them into tight circle foils.
Yeah, and roll them around the white to give the snowflake some sparkle.
That's a great idea. See, I'm telling you guys, you have great ideas. Also, poster board. Yeah, you can quill with poster board. It's a little bit harder because it's thicker. Same thing with cardstock. Is getting cardstock that's incredibly thick for me is a lot harder to quill with than a lower weight. I think like 64 pounds, I wouldn't quill on anything maybe more than I think I use maybe 60 to 80 on my quilling poundage of the paper that I use. I just don't like really thick paper. I think it's just harder to get the shapes that you want. Let me see what else. Yes, you can cut those strips as wide as you want. I've done them where they're 1 inch wide. I've done them where they're, I don't know if I've gone all the way up to 2 inches, but yeah, you can cut them as big as you want. Absolutely. Anytime you're rolling paper around something, that is absolutely what quilling is. So you could do it with whatever you can wrap around. Maybe you have a gigantic, huge pool noodle and you want to wrap it around that. Still quilling, friends. So yeah, you can do that.
Deanna, how do you keep your strips even on both sides? Do you know what I'm saying?
Like when I cut them?
Yeah, when you're cutting them.
So I have a really nice paper cutter that was also, you know, years of investing. So or doing this art to make sure that it was worth me buying a nice paper cutter. So it's really nice. That's why. But when I started with a paper shredder and not a crosscut, but just a regular paper shredder. And what I loved about that was that it would cut them evenly. Sometimes there might be one that doesn't get evenly cut because I'm jamming it in there, or I've put too many pieces in at one time. But what I loved about that was that it cut the paper for me ahead of time, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time cutting the paper. Now, when I do a project, I spend as much time cutting the paper as I probably do quilling. Did that answer the question? And if you're cutting it just by hand, it's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and you still can even get, this is the paper shredder or cutter trimmer that I have with me that I use constantly for cutting stuff. And I got this, it's called Fiskars or Fiskars. I got this at Michael's. I've had this a really long time, and I used this in the very beginning. What I didn't like about it is that I had to line it up, move it every time and say, okay, I only want this much and I only want this much. Whereas the one I got, I even had to adapt it though to make it the way I want it, is I took a piece of wood to stop the paper so that every time I run my hand to cut it. Thing about the old fashioned paper cutters, but this one goes back and forth this way, is it stops it so I get the exact same size that I want every single time. And that's because I really like to quill with the exact same size that I have. Oh, yes. Barb, I have several things that I've made out of book pages. Yes, absolutely. This snowman would look really cute to do the whole thing in book pages. That would be really cute. Or music. Well, you won't see the sheet music. But I mean, you've got the paper and you might as well use it. Okay, these are really good questions, guys, by the way. Thank you so much. Let me move on to the next one. And that is, we're going to move to the hat pom-pom next. This is so easy. I'm telling you, this whole snowman is cute and easy. Let's do red and green. So for the pom-pom on the hat, you're going to have one strip. Now, if you want to use two colors, we still want to think of it only as one strip. So you're going to use a half and a half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red and my green, and I only need a half from each one. All right. So what I can do, that green one or the red one is not the right size. Sometimes when I get to the end of the paper, I have a wonky one. So what you can do is cut these in half. You can eyeball it. It does not have to be the exact measurement. The other thing you can do is just fold this like this in half. And that will show you exactly where to cut these two. So we're going to turn this into some fringe. This is exactly the same way that you can do your fringe at the bottom of your scarf. This is also how you do the earmuffs. So we want to do this with fringe. It doesn't matter which one's on top. Now notice I have a smaller pair of scissors. Those little sewing scissors are great. I think the bigger ones make some of this a little bit harder to do. And we're just going to make some little tiny cuts in here. Not going all the way to the end. Actually thinking about making fringe. Just like if I gave you two little pieces of paper and said, make some fringe, I have a feeling this is exactly what you guys would do. It's just normal. Or natural. That's the word, not normal. And we're just going to do this the whole way down. Now, if you have a stylus, you may have a difficult time putting two papers into that stylus. And that's where that bigger stylus helps. I will tell you that I go through styluses pretty quick because I bend them and I move them apart to make them fit whatever I want them to fit. That is just what I do. So I do go through them because they are metal. And when you bend them out and then in and then out and then in, we all know what happens to metal every once in a while. It will just snap in half. It just happens. So that's why I go through them. You don't even have to use a quilling stylus on this. You could also just roll this with into your paintbrush or a knitting needle or whatever you've got. I have done this a lot with this fringe stuff. For some reason, it's just been in my brain a lot lately. Now let's say this one right here looks like it's about to fall off because I cut too deep. I can just pull that off and I can come back in and glue that on at the end. It's not a big deal. So here is the one that I can do multiple papers. Just decide which color you want on the outside. Do you want red or green? We're just going to make this into a tight circle coil. And like I said, you can do that on whatever you have, knitting needle or a skewer. You don't have to have this. That's another thing that I love about quilling is that you don't have to buy these specialty tools, especially when you're first trying it out and saying, do I like this? Don't I, there's no need to go buy those tools. But once you decide this is something you want to do, I highly recommend the stylus. I just think it makes life a little easier. Plus, I just like the way it looks. Need to put a little bit more glue in there. Sometimes I move too fast. And then what I can do with this one that fell off, I'll just glue it on. I'm not going to do that now, but normally I would just do that. And then you're going to let this dry. Once it's nice and dry, then you can make this into kind of a fluff ball by just pulling those pieces out like that. I'm just using my thumbs. Another reason why I love this, I love the tactile thing of quilling. And so now it's just a little puffed out thing that will easily go on the top of your hat, especially if the hat has a little bit of a poof. You can just glue that right onto there, but wait until it's dry. The same thing with your hat, make sure you fill it in just like you did with your body. And then for your earmuffs, they're exactly the same thing. They just go here on the side. Exactly the same thing. Now I have played around with taking this paper and cutting it in half lengthwise. So if you want to try this, you can. I found it just to be a little too small for my hands. If you cut this lengthwise, you can make smaller earmuffs. It's not that I can't roll it, it's cutting the fringe part that's hard. But cutting this lengthwise like this is a good way to make that hanger. And it can just go in between. Now, I will tell you, you don't have to use paper for this hanger. You could put a ribbon in there, a thin ribbon, which would look really cute. You could do some twine in there. Even though it looks like it's holding the earmuffs together, it's really to hang it. So if you're worried about paper being able to hold the weight, which is not a problem, then what you can do is find something different to put in between there, and you're just going to glue it underneath these. Now moving to the nose is the exact same thing. It is a tight circle coil, but it's only a half a strip. I'm going to do it with a full strip just because I think it's a little bit easier to see. I'm just going to roll this up into a tight circle coil. We're doing good on time. And then again, you will also get the handwritten notes, my handwritten notes with all the information so that you can, some people like to see notes and they're visual that way. Some people would rather see videos. This gives you the option to do both at the same time or one or the other. The other thing I want you to do, and you may be hearing other people here talk about this, is adapting things and changing things and doing it your way. I am a self-taught quiller, meaning I learned to quill and then I completely changed it. I didn't like the way that I had learned it. And so you guys are learning my self-taught way. And so that's why when Connie gave me that suggestion about tearing the paper, yeah, I've never heard that before. So I love to hear that. Now, I am a professional quilling artist. This is what I do. But I am open to hearing new ideas. So here is the nose, and all you're going to do is maybe take the end of a paintbrush, a toothpick, something a little bit smaller. You could even use the end of your stylus. And we're just going to extend this, not with our finger this time. We're just going to extend this out just like that. Now, this is twice the size that it should be, but I wanted to be able to show you. Then you're going to want to put glue inside of here as well. Now, we're getting ready to move to the hot glue. So I am a purist when it comes to quilling in the sense that I like to use my glue. I'm not a big hot glue person when it comes to quilling. But for ornaments like this that have lots of parts that can be taken off really easy, I do like to glue them on with hot glue. Two reasons it's faster. It's not that it's a stronger bond, but if it were to break off, which does happen, all right, because of the way these are made, that the hot glue will not tear the paper like the Aleene's or the Elmer's will. So that if the nose falls off, there's not an obnoxious amount of paper gone. And what I can do is just hot glue it back on. So that's why I like to do it. If I've even used the glue that's I'm gonna get the number wrong, the E630,000 thing. I've done that. It still comes off, and I think it's just because it's made of paper. So I have found that hot glue in this instance is the best. So almost everything is hot glued on. The hat, the earmuffs, and the nose. I even glued the two bodies together. And I just think it makes it a lot better. Now, speaking of gluing your body parts together, I'm going to open this up so you can see it. We're going to give this guy a neck, all right? And it is just a tight circle coil. And yeah, I pulled all this apart, but I can clean it up pretty easy. You just put it in between the two, a tight circle coil, and that is in your notes as well. There's even a diagram at the end where I kind of labeled everything so you can see it. And that is how those parts are connected in there. And then the scarf comes around and wraps around it just like that. And I can take my hot glue and just fix it. In fact, I had dropped one of these the other day and the nose fell off when I dropped it, and I just glued it right back on. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before class is over is the scarf. The scarf is just a different way to do something with paper. This is not quilling. This is more like origami. You can just put one color around your neck if you would like, or you could do two different colors, and that's what I did. Now, this is in the video, so I know you guys are probably working on whatever you're working on, and that's what I want you to keep doing. Don't feel like you have to stop and watch or do this with me. It's a modified braid is what it is. And basically, I'm going to use 3 colors. I'm going to put that green one in the middle. And then I'm going to do this one at a time. And the reason why I call it a modified braid, those of you that have ever braided your hair, you know you're moving all 3 sections. This only moves 2 sections at a time. And it does take a little bit getting used to. And you do have to maneuver the paper around a lot with your hands. It's very tactile. All you're going to do is fold the paper over. And I usually do the first one here. So I'm just folding it up against this green. Then I'm going to come back and put the other one on. It just is easier than doing them both at the beginning. Although you can try to put them at the same angle. I'll come back and cut that off. And then you're just going to fold forwards and then backwards. So there's forwards. Then I'm going to flip it over, let that dry. Sorry, I get really excited and move too fast sometimes. Here I'm going. And then I'm going to flip it over and just go the other way. Folding it up against the edge and then folding this side up against the edge. And sometimes you get a perfect little diamond in the middle. Sometimes you kind of have to move it to get it that way. The other thing you can do is do this exact same thing with 2 strips, and you'll get more of like a candy cane pattern. Okay, so that's all you're going to do is just keep folding them over the top of each other. See, that one moved on me. So you can go back and fix it, or you can just live with it. And so you just go back and forth. Now, if you do it with one paper, you get more of this candy cane kind of look. You could also do a ribbon for the scarf if you want to do that for the headband so that you get, this one's a lot easier going like this. So you get kind of a striped effect and you get your scarf. And then you can come in and put some fringe on the end, like how I showed you with the earmuffs and the hair poof. And then the last thing is how you wrap it around the neck. I just glued this and I'm about to open it again. And this is in the video, guys, it's very simple. You have this part right here in the middle, just like that. And I glue it to the back of the head. And then I'm going to come around with it here. Now this little part's not on it yet. So I glue it here. And then this is cut off. I didn't do anything crazy with that. Glue it down and then come back around. This won't be like this. I don't know why I'm showing you one that's already pre-made, but this comes across and it's just folded downwards. And then you just hot glue it just like that, which makes it really nice and easy if you need to repair things. You don't have a whole lot of weird movements of paper that are folded over each other too many times. And again,
which way is the coil for the neck going?
That's a good question. It's going up and down. It's going like this. So it goes like this. This is big, sorry.
Okay.
Does that make sense? The head is this way. This is this way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one little piece in there like that. It would